Have you ever taken a moment to reflect on how your actions might be influencing your relationships as you age? It's a thought many of us, especially as we step into our 70s and beyond, might overlook. Yet, it's a critical reflection. As we grow older, certain habits, even those born from good intentions, can inadvertently create distance instead of fostering closeness. In today's video, we'll delve into 6 behaviors that may subtly impact your relationships, whether with your children, grandchildren, or friends. These habits can affect your happiness, self-esteem, and emotional well-being without you even realizing it. Stay with us until the end, and we'll not only identify these behaviors, but also guide you on making small changes that can lead to stronger, more fulfilling connections with the people who matter most. Before we dive in, I'd appreciate it if you could like this video. Your support helps me continue to share valuable insights on aging gracefully. If you haven't subscribed yet, I highly recommend you do so and turn on the notification bell to stay updated on future videos. If you find this video helpful, please comment 1 below. If not, comment 0 so I can improve and better serve you. Now, let's begin. First, let's talk about personal hygiene, a topic that can be uncomfortable but is incredibly important. Take Harold, a 75-year-old retired mechanic from Chicago. Once proud of his appearance, Harold now finds it challenging to maintain his grooming habits. He struggles with chronic back pain, fatigue, and a growing sense of isolation, which have made personal care a daunting task. Harold's belief that no one notices his appearance anymore has led to him neglecting his hygiene, affecting not only his self-esteem, but also his relationships. This is a common experience for many seniors. Physical challenges like arthritis make simple tasks such as bathing and brushing teeth feel insurmountable. Emotional factors, such as depression following the loss of a loved one, can further diminish motivation for self-care. However, personal hygiene is more than just appearance. It affects how others perceive us and has serious health implications. For instance, Harold's neglect led to visible signs of poor hygiene and a painful skin irritation, which further isolated him from his loved ones. So, what can be done? Small, manageable changes can make a big difference. For Harold, the turning point came when his grandson helped him establish a simple daily routine, which included using tools like a long-handled brush to make personal care easier. These changes not only improved Harold's health but also strengthened his bond with his family. Next, let's explore the habit of constant complaining. Margaret, a 74-year-old retired librarian, often shared her opinions with humor. However, over time, her occasional gripes turned into constant negativity, straining her family relationships. What once was seen as endearing became draining, causing her family to distance themselves. Why do some older adults fall into this pattern? It often stems from frustration, loneliness, or a sense of loss of control as the world changes rapidly around them. Complaining becomes a way to feel heard, but can lead to emotional strain and isolation. Margaret's turning point came when her grandson expressed his feelings about her negativity. This feedback prompted her to start a gratitude journal, shifting her focus from what frustrated her to what brought her joy. By making a conscious effort to engage in more positive conversations, Margaret fostered a more uplifting environment for herself and her family. Breaking the cycle of negativity is not about ignoring challenges but finding a balance. By focusing on the positives, older adults can create a more joyful and connected atmosphere. If you found these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know you're still watching. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me. 3. Dominating the conversation. Picture this. Consider the scenario of Frank, a 78-year-old retired professor from Denver. Frank is a man rich in life experiences. Having taught at prestigious universities, traveled to some of the world's most historical landmarks, and engaged with brilliant minds in his field, he has countless stories to tell. Family gatherings have become his favorite space to relive these moments, sharing tales of academic triumphs, his travels, and encounters with notable figures in his career. His stories captivate his children and grandchildren, who listen with admiration as Frank recounts the details in vivid fashion. But, as fascinating as Frank's stories are, His tendency to dominate conversations has started to create tension. For example, during a recent Sunday lunch at his daughter Laura's home, the atmosphere shifted when Frank took over the conversation. Laura's teenage son, Alex, was excitedly sharing details about a school project he was working on. Clearly eager to contribute, Alex was cut off before he could even get to the heart of his story. Frank interjected with, "That reminds me of the time I gave a lecture at Harvard." What followed was a 15-minute recount of his lecture experience, complete with names of prominent colleagues and descriptions of the academic environment at Harvard. As Frank spoke, the table grew quieter and quieter, and Alex's enthusiasm faded. By the time Frank finished his story, Alex, feeling overlooked, quietly retreated and the conversation lost its momentum. Frank isn't alone in this pattern of behavior. Many older adults, especially those with a lifetime of experiences, feel compelled to take the lead in conversations. Their intentions are often rooted in a desire to teach, to connect with younger generations, or to contribute their accumulated wisdom. They want to pass on their experiences and remain valuable in family interactions. However, when this is done in a way that constantly redirects the conversation back to their own stories or imposes their opinions on others, younger family members can feel unheard, unappreciated, or even frustrated. So why does this happen? For some, like Frank, dominating the conversation is a way of asserting their relevance and maintaining a sense of identity in an ever-changing world. The world around them shifts, with younger generations embracing new technologies and ways of thinking. To stay connected, older adults may inadvertently take control of the conversation. In other cases, they may not even realize they are doing it, genuinely believing they are enriching the discussion with their experiences. However, the effect can be alienating. Younger family members especially may begin to withdraw from these interactions, viewing them less as opportunities for mutual exchange and more as one-sided lectures where they have little space to contribute. The key to addressing this issue is not to silence the storytelling or dismiss the wealth of knowledge older adults have accumulated over the years. Instead, it's about creating an environment where communication is a shared experience, one where both older and younger family members can participate equally. For Frank, the turning point came during a conversation with his daughter Laura. After the lunch, Laura, feeling the need to address the issue but wanting to do so gently, said, "Dad, we love hearing your stories, but sometimes Alex and the others feel like they don't get a chance to share their thoughts." Initially, Frank was defensive. "I'm just trying to connect," he replied, feeling hurt that his storytelling was being criticized. But after some reflection, Frank realized that Laura's point had merit. He didn't want to alienate his family, especially his grandchildren, from sharing their thoughts and experiences. As a result, Frank decided to adopt a new approach: active listening. The next time the family gathered for dinner, when Alex began talking about his school project, Frank resisted the temptation to interject with a story of his own. Instead, he chose to listen carefully and ask open-ended questions like, "What's the most exciting part of your project?" Or, "What do you hope to learn from this?" By taking a step back, Frank allowed Alex to express himself fully, and the conversation began to flow more naturally. After Alex finished sharing, Frank was able to contribute a story related to the topic at hand, and the exchange felt more balanced. The shift in communication was remarkable. Not only did Alex appreciate the opportunity to be heard, but Frank also found that his stories were better received when shared at the right moment, without overshadowing others. Through active listening, Frank felt more engaged with his family, and their connections became deeper and more meaningful. Effective communication is at its core a two-way street. It's about balancing the wisdom that comes with age with the curiosity to learn from others, regardless of their age. For Frank, the transition wasn't easy, and it took time to adjust. But the results were worth it. He discovered that by listening more attentively, he could create a more inclusive and enriching conversation, one where everyone's voice was valued. By encouraging a mutual exchange of ideas, older adults like Frank can maintain a strong presence in family interactions while respecting the voices of younger generations. This approach not only strengthens intergenerational relationships, but also ensures that their stories are shared in a way that enhances, rather than diminishes, the overall dialogue. For demanding respect based on age, meet Evelyn, a 76-year-old retired nurse from Atlanta. Evelyn grew up in a time when age was not only a marker of experience, but also a symbol of authority. In her generation, younger people were expected to show respect and deference to their elders without question. This cultural norm shaped Evelyn's worldview and her interactions with others. For much of her life, this belief in the importance of respecting one's elders was reaffirmed, earning her admiration and respect from both her children and colleagues. However, as the years passed and societal norms began to shift, Evelyn found herself struggling to adapt to the changing expectations of younger generations. Her grandchild, 16-year-old Chloe, was raised in a world where respect was not automatically granted based on age. Instead, respect was earned through mutual understanding, kindness, and demonstrated actions. This new dynamic left Evelyn feeling increasingly frustrated and confused. At a recent family barbecue, this generational divide became particularly evident. Evelyn was upset when Chloe, who had expressed an interest in a career in graphic design, didn't immediately agree with her opinion on how young people should approach their career choices. "Back in my day," Evelyn remarked, "young people respected their elders without questioning them. You need to learn to listen." To Evelyn's surprise, Chloe, feeling dismissed and unheard, rolled her eyes and walked away, leaving Evelyn hurt and bewildered. Evelyn's situation is not unique. Many older adults like her believe that respect should be a given, an automatic right based on age. While it's undeniable that older generations bring wisdom, experience, and valuable perspectives, demanding respect without offering it in return can lead to tension, especially with younger individuals who see respect as something that must be earned through actions, not just age or status. Chloe's response wasn't an act of disrespect toward Evelyn. Rather, it was a reaction to the one-sided expectation of respect that Evelyn had imposed. For Chloe, respect was not something to be taken for granted. It had to be mutual. This disconnect between Evelyn's expectations and Chloe's perspective highlights a larger generational divide. Why does this disconnect happen? For older adults like Evelyn, the belief that respect your elders is a steadfast rule is deeply ingrained. It's a value instilled during their upbringing and tied to their life experiences. However, for younger generations, the concept of respect is evolving. It is increasingly seen as a two-way street, one that requires mutual understanding, empathy, and actions that demonstrate care for one another, not just the acknowledgement of age or status. The impact of demanding respect without earning it can have far-reaching consequences. It can create a wedge between generations, leaving younger people feeling unheard, undervalued, or even resentful. In Evelyn's case, her insistence on receiving respect without considering Chloe's viewpoint led to misunderstandings, straining her relationship with her granddaughter. It also created tension with her son Mark, who found himself caught in the middle of the situation. Mark loved both his mother and his daughter, but he could see how the lack of mutual respect was eroding their connection. Fortunately, this dynamic can be changed through small but deliberate shifts in perspective. The turning point for Evelyn came when Mark took the time to talk to her after the barbecue. "Mom," he said gently, "Chloe loves you, but she feels like you don't respect her opinions. If you listen to her more, I think she'd be more willing to listen to you." Though initially resistant, Evelyn realized there was truth in her son's words. She decided to try something different. The next time their family gathered for dinner, when Chloe mentioned her plans to pursue a career in graphic design, something Evelyn had previously dismissed as impractical, she put her judgment aside. Instead of launching into a critique, Evelyn took a deep breath and asked thoughtful questions. "What excites you about that field? And how do you see yourself growing in that career?" To her surprise, Chloe opened up about her aspirations and the vision she had for her future. The conversation flowed more freely. and Evelyn felt a sense of connection she hadn't experienced in months. The lesson here is clear. Respect is not something that can be demanded. It's something that must be earned through genuine actions, empathy, and an authentic interest in others' lives. By showing respect to Chloe and truly listening to her, Evelyn found that the respect she longed for came naturally in return. The relationship between them grew stronger, and Evelyn realized that the bonds she shared with her family were much more meaningful when built on mutual respect. This shift in mindset had a profound impact not only on Evelyn's relationship with Chloe, but also on her relationships with other family members. By fostering an environment of mutual respect, older adults like Evelyn can cultivate deeper, more meaningful connections with younger generations. In doing so, they ensure that their wisdom is valued and their relationships remain strong despite the generational divide. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know you are still watching. Thank you for your valuable time. Robert, a 72-year-old retired engineer from Dallas, has lived a life full of trials and triumphs. Over the years, he has weathered economic downturns, raised 3 children, and navigated serious health challenges in his 60s. Through it all, he's learned valuable lessons about perseverance, resilience, and hard work. With decades of experience behind him, Robert feels confident in his ability to understand what life's obstacles truly mean. However, when his granddaughter Emily, a 20-year-old college sophomore, recently confided in him about the pressure she's facing trying to balance her demanding academic schedule, part-time job, and social life, Robert's response was swift and dismissive. "That's nothing," he said. "When I was your age, I worked full-time, went to school at night, and still had to take care of my younger siblings. You've got it easy." What Robert didn't fully grasp was how those words made Emily feel. Instead of receiving the empathy and understanding she needed, she felt dismissed. Her struggles were minimized and invalidated, as if they weren't worthy of attention or concern. While Robert didn't intend to belittle her, his comment inadvertently downplayed her challenges, leading her to feel like her stress was insignificant compared to his past experiences. As a result, she became more hesitant to open up to him about her life in the future. This kind of situation is not uncommon among older adults like Robert, who have lived through decades of personal challenges and hardships. From their perspective, the difficulties faced by younger generations might seem trivial or unimportant. Yet, each stage of life comes with its own set of unique challenges, and what might seem like a small problem to one person can feel incredibly overwhelming to another. In this case, Emily's stress about managing her academic responsibilities alongside her job was just as real to her as Robert's struggles had been when he was her age. So why do older adults sometimes minimize the experiences of younger people? Often, it's not because they want to belittle or invalidate the other person's feelings. Instead, it's a matter of perspective. Older adults tend to draw from their own life experiences to offer context or reassurance, believing that sharing their challenges will help younger people see their problems in a different light. But this approach can unintentionally dismiss the emotions of others, especially if those feelings aren't validated or understood in the same way. The impact of minimizing someone else's experience can be more significant than it may seem at first. When younger people feel unheard, unacknowledged, or unappreciated, it can create emotional distance and prevent them from sharing openly in the future. This was evident in Robert's relationship with Emily. Over time, he noticed that she stopped calling him as frequently, and their conversations became shorter and less personal. Emily no longer seemed willing to open up about the stresses in her life. Concerned, Robert reached out to his daughter Lisa for advice. She gently explained the situation, saying, "Dad, Emily feels like you don't take her struggles seriously. She looks up to you, but when you compare her challenges to yours, it makes her feel small and like her problems don't matter." Feeling a deep sense of regret, Robert realized the truth in Lisa's words. He understood that, while his intentions were never to minimize Emily's feelings, his actions had led to unintended consequences. Determined to repair their bond, Robert decided to approach things differently the next time Emily confided in him. When Emily once again expressed her frustrations about juggling her responsibilities, Robert resisted the urge to compare her situation to his past. Instead, he chose to focus on her experience and validate her feelings. "That sounds like a lot to handle," he said. "How are you managing everything? Tell me more about what you're going through." The effect was immediate. Emily felt heard, and their conversation took on a more meaningful tone. She opened up about her challenges in a way she hadn't before, and they were able to connect on a deeper level than they had in months. The key lesson here is simple, yet profound. Validating others' experiences is crucial for fostering understanding, empathy, and emotional connection. By acknowledging and respecting the feelings of others, especially younger generations, older adults can build trust and create an environment of support. For Robert, the realization that his role wasn't to compare his struggles to Emily's, but to listen, empathize, and offer encouragement, was transformative. He learned that every person's challenges, no matter how big or small, deserve to be taken seriously. Ultimately, everyone wants to feel heard and understood. For older adults like Robert, learning to validate the experiences of younger generations helps bridge the gap between them, strengthening relationships and deepening emotional bonds. By truly listening, they create an atmosphere where meaningful connections can thrive. Linda, a 73-year-old retired small business owner from Portland, had always been proud of her self-reliance and the values she instilled in her children. But lately, she found herself growing increasingly irritated by her grandson Ethan's behavior, especially during family dinners. She often watched him sit at the table, eyes glued to his smartphone, scrolling through his social media or texting friends. It was a habit that seemed to consume him, and Linda couldn't help but feel frustrated. "All they do is stare at screens," she would mutter to her husband Frank after each family gathering. The dinner table, once a place for meaningful conversation and connection, had become a battlefield in Linda's mind, one where the younger generation's obsession with gadgets felt like an unwelcome disruption. One evening, unable to contain her frustration any longer, Linda decided to speak up. "Ethan," she said sharply, her voice cutting through the hum of the dining room, "when I was your age, we didn't waste our time on gadgets. We spent time talking to each other face to face, and we worked hard for everything we had. You kids are all too distracted by your phones to appreciate what matters in life." Ethan, caught off guard and feeling unfairly criticized, responded with a defensive shrug. "Grandma, it's not like that. I was texting about a project for school," he replied, trying to explain himself. But the tone of the conversation had already shifted, and the tension in the room was palpable. Linda's words, though meant to be constructive, felt like an attack on Ethan, who spent the rest of the meal silently scrolling through his phone. It wasn't because he didn't care about his family, but because he no longer felt comfortable engaging in the conversation. He felt judged and misunderstood. Linda, on the other hand, thought she was simply offering advice, hoping to steer Ethan toward a more meaningful and balanced lifestyle. Like many older adults, she believed her years of experience and wisdom gave her valuable insight that could benefit younger generations. In her mind, her criticism was a form of caring, a way to help Ethan avoid the mistakes she felt her generation had made. But to Ethan, it didn't feel like guidance. It felt like rejection. He couldn't understand why his grandmother couldn't appreciate how technology had become a part of his life, his education, and his social world. As time went on, Linda began to realize that her comments were having an unintended effect. The rift between her and Ethan seemed to grow wider, and the frustration she felt only made things more difficult. It was then that Linda's daughter Sarah stepped in, gently but firmly. "Mom," Sarah said, "I know you mean well, but Ethan feels like you're always criticizing him. He thinks you don't see the good in what he's doing. Maybe instead of focusing on what you don't like, you could ask him why he uses his phone so much or what he's working on." Linda took Sarah's advice to heart. When Ethan pulled out his phone at the next family dinner, she felt the familiar urge to comment, to voice her disapproval. But instead of saying anything critical, she decided to approach the situation differently. "What's the coolest thing you've learned recently from your phone or online?" she asked, genuinely curious. To Linda's surprise, Ethan's face lit up. He eagerly began to tell her about a new app he had discovered, one that allowed him to learn coding and create his own projects. As he shared the details of his experience, the conversation shifted from one of tension to one of genuine interest. Linda was captivated by his enthusiasm and impressed by how much he was learning on his own. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she was truly connecting with her grandson, not through criticism but through curiosity and understanding. The lesson here is clear. Building strong relationships with younger generations requires patience, empathy, and a willingness to meet them where they are. Older adults like Linda often have valuable advice to offer, but it's important to remember that offering guidance should be done with respect for the experiences and choices of younger people. Instead of criticizing, ask questions. Instead of judging, seek to understand. When Linda shifted from criticizing Ethan's use of technology to showing genuine interest in it, she was able to bridge the generational gap and foster a stronger, more supportive relationship. By adopting this mindset, older generations can create an environment where their wisdom is not only shared, but also appreciated. When criticism is replaced with curiosity, the conversation becomes less about what's wrong and more about what's right, about how technology and modern life can bring people together, even when they seem to be pulling them apart. This approach helps strengthen family bonds, creating a space where everyone feels heard, respected, and valued. So, what have you learned from today's video? Whether it's about health, aging gracefully, or making smarter life choices, I hope you found something that resonates with you. I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and share one thing you've learned today and how you plan to bring it into practice in your life. If you liked this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insightful content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.